Joining me now from our downtown Toronto studio is Environment Minister Catherine McKenna. Ms. McKenna, good to have you on the program today. I know you've been making the rounds talking about this tax. You heard from a couple of people we interviewed not happy about this. How do you justify the tax to those who do not think it's fair?
Well, let's be clear. We've made sure that it's no longer free to pollute anywhere in the country, because when it's free to pollute, there's more pollution. But we're giving money back to folks through the Climate Action Incentive Rebate. So for all of those folks, I wish I could have a chance to talk to them about when they file their taxes, they will get more money back than the great majority pay. And some people might say, well, how does that work? Well, because you have an incentive to look at, if you want, how you could reduce your emissions. You could look at a more energy efficient vehicle. We've just announced a $5,000 incentive for electric vehicles. You could look at carpooling. You could look at public transit. We made historic investments or not. That's your choice. But we know life has to be affordable. And that's why we have committed by law, all money will be returned into the province. 90% will go directly to people. But let's talk about the costs of climate change. It's over $2 billion a year right now, and that's hurting people. That's hurting the same people that you're talking to. That's floods that are flooding people's homes, their businesses. That's droughts. That's forest fires that we've seen in the West, where people are worried about having their kids go outside, elderly people, because it's so polluted outside. And also that's extreme heat, where people literally died in Quebec and Ontario as a result of really hot temperatures. And those are the most vulnerable. Those are people who don't have air conditioning. Those are seniors. And so we need to take action on climate change because the costs are increasing. And putting a price on pollution, it's a proven measure. It's worked in British Columbia. It's worked in Quebec. It was working in Ontario. The economy was one of the fastest growing in the country until Premier Ford removed the price on pollution. And we can also do it in a way that makes life affordable, which is critically important.
You've got 4 provinces, though, that you had to impose this carbon tax onto. You're being taken to court over it. What about, for example, in Saskatchewan, where people say it's not fair because they don't have the options, especially in the rural areas, of taking some of these cheaper or more environmentally friendly options as they do in the city, for example? Like in rural areas in some parts of Saskatchewan, you don't have public transportation.
Well, you can look at choosing a more energy-efficient vehicle. But once again, let me remind everyone that there's a climate action incentive rebate. So when you file your taxes, I know a lot of people are getting ready or doing their taxes right now, you will get the money back. We're making people pay, big polluters pay, and the money is going directly back to people to make life more affordable. We think that's the right thing to do. It's part of any credible climate plan because it can't be free to pollute in one province. Pollution doesn't know any borders. This is an issue of national concern, of international concern, and it is the most effective tool we have in our toolbox. And so we need to do that, put a price on pollution, but of course, better increase public transportation. We're making historic investments, phasing out coal and investing in renewables. Energy efficiency. We have programs across the country so that people can take measures to make their homes, their businesses more efficient so they can save money.
Just for a moment, because we're running short on time. And you talk about how BC has said, you know, it works for BC. But as you point out, if the rest of the provinces don't come on board, it's for naught if the other provinces can pollute at will. But looking at it on a more global perspective, if Canada's on board eventually with carbon tax and fighting environment, but the U.S. isn't and they're not meeting their targets, again, you know, if everybody's not on board, it almost feels like it's for naught.
Well, first of all, over 50 countries have a price on pollution. I was just in California. California is not just like any other state. It's the 6th largest state in the country. They have a price on pollution. So do states in the Eastern Seaboard. We all need to do our part to tackle climate change. And it's not a race to the bottom. It's a race to the top. It's the countries that are taking action to move to a cleaner future, that are creating the incentives for people to choose clean choices. I've seen amazing Canadian solutions across the board to reduce emissions, and those are creating good jobs. We need to take action on climate change. It's costing us, and it's just going to cost us more. And we want to be the country that is leading the way in providing clean solutions, but of course in a way that makes life affordable. So go file your taxes. You'll get your climate action incentive in the 4 provinces.
Ms. McKenna, Andrew Scheer says he will cancel the carbon tax if they get elected this fall. Do you think this is going to cost you politically?
Look, there's going to be a choice in the next election. Andrew Scheer, it's been over 330 days since he said he'll have a climate plan. He has no climate plan. And in the 21st century, if you don't have a plan to tackle climate change, which is imposing costs that are even just growing, and not helping to foster the clean solutions, you're going to lose. The environment and the economy do go together, and we've got a plan that we believe works for Canadians, that makes life affordable and takes the action we need to do to reduce our emissions. Conservative politicians from Premier Ford to Andrew Scheer do not have plans to tackle climate change. They don't have plans to grow the economy.
Environment Minister Catherine McKenna, thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Okay.